What is the most intimate non-sex thing you do with your partner? He likes to call me different nicknames, one of them being Peach. So whenever he wants to cuddle, he says, "Peach time?" And we cuddle and just lay there together. It's honestly one of my favorite things in the world. I scratch his back and head. He was telling me how his mom would scratch his back and it was a very intimate thing for him. His grandma would scratch his head until he fell asleep. Ever since he told me that, I've been trying my best to stay awake long enough that he falls asleep from head scratches too. He has trouble falling asleep. Last night I finally held out long enough. I could hear his breathing change and his body relax and felt him fall asleep under my hand. And I don't know why, but I was the happiest in the world because I could do something for him like that. Someone I really care about. He told me I was amazing and I just melted. I hope to do it more often. Literally sleeping together. That's not something I've done with another person for a very long time. Cuddling and eventually falling asleep in someone's arms is very intimate and requires quite a bit of vulnerability. My boyfriend swims nearly every day and the chlorine dries the crap out of his skin, so I spend a few minutes every day applying lotion on his back and butt so they don't get ashy. This is mostly non-sexual, but sometimes I pretend I'm a dude and the lotion is my nut, with crazy humping and dirty talk. He doesn't like it when the tables turn. When he wraps himself around me tightly while spooning, and he calls it maximum security. If I'm feeling sad, he'll tease me and be like, "Does someone need maximum security?" It's very sweet. He plays love songs on the piano while I stand behind him kissing the back of his head. I almost cry sometimes. He's autistic and doesn't do verbal affection, but he finds a way to show that he loves me. My boyfriend draws and sometimes he draws me naked. Granted, it's prelude to sex sometimes, but not all the time. It's super intimate watching him quietly concentrate and do his work while sort of examining parts of me. I used to be super self-conscious, so just lying there and being out in the open is sort of freeing. I think the most intimate thing happened to me during my second son's birth a few months ago. I had given birth quickly and easily, but then began hemorrhaging. They stood me up to go to the bathroom and blood began pouring down my legs and feet. Immediately back in bed giving me shots and meds to try to stop it, but it wouldn't. The nurses were scared and the team ran in. My husband laid the baby down and held my hand. I was terrified. I was dying and leaving them. I just kept looking to his eyes and telling him I was so scared, and he stayed calm and smiled and reassured me. I'm so lucky. They found a piece of retained placenta and were able to give me a second epidural and manually remove it. I ended up losing almost 800 ml of blood. I really thought those could be my last moments, and I just locked eyes with him, trying to communicate everything I needed him to know about our family and my sons, but too scared to say anything out loud. It was the most intimate moment of my life. Taking care of me when I was sick. We've been together for about a year and don't live together. I have to cancel plans because I had the stomach bug and he came over, took care of me. Any man that can witness his girl sitting on the toilet, head in the trash can, and still want to cuddle and love you is a keeper. Getting dressed for the day or undressed for bed together. Having deep, meaningful conversations on the couch. He scrubs my back before I get in the shower. I shave his lower back for him after a health issue necessitated it. Stop reading now if you get grossed out. From WebMD, there's a type of cyst you can get at the bottom of your tailbone. It's called a pilonocyst, and it can become infected and filled with pus. Once infected, the technical term is a pilodon abscess, and it can be painful. Per his doctor, after it was treated, he needed to keep the area of his tailbone hair-free to reduce the risk of getting another one. So I shaved the top of his butt crack for him. Talk. Just literally open my mouth and let the most random, uncensored stream of consciousness crap pour out. Oftentimes working through things or saying things out loud to process them, and I rarely feel like I'm being judged. I don't recall a time in my life that felt so comfortable and safe and loved in a relationship. That level of trust translates to so many other aspects of a relationship and is both scary and exhilarating. There's always a few moments before we fall asleep where we just lay together, making eye contact. That may sound strange, but it also feels super intimate in a way that nothing needs to be said out loud. You're just sharing this moment and know that there's nowhere else you'd rather be. He goes to bed much later than I do, but he puts me to bed every night. I lay my head on his chest and play with his beard while he rubs my head. Then I will usually tell him I need some skin, and I will untuck his shirt and put my hand inside under his shirt and rub his chest and play with his chest hair as he rubs my head until I fall asleep. It is my favorite time of the day, by far. My husband likes to straight up lay on me with his head on my chest and fall asleep like that on the couch like a toddler would. It's so sweet, I absolutely love it. OCD rituals. I don't suffer from compulsion anymore, thanks to CBT, but I have obsessively thoughts that get extremely dark. I've never shared with anybody but him. I just blur them out as I'm thinking them, and we either make lighthearted jokes about them, or if I have increased anxiety, I'll ask for a hug. I've never felt judged by him, and it's the most open I've ever been with anyone. When we first started dating and I told him I had OCD, he reads turtles all the way down to better understand it. He cries at the thought of anyone having to live with OCD. My partner died 10 months ago. We shared many of the same things like cuddling, being sick together, being in the hospital, being able to say and do the weirdest things without repercussions, sharing our tears, grooming each other. I think one of my favorite things was that we had a whole little language no one else understood, little mannerisms and abbreviations and gestures that were only funny or meaningful to us. We could also just tell what the other was thinking after 13 years of knowing each other. I could tell he was thirsty just by the way he looked around the room. We walked into a busy cafe once and he immediately knew I wanted to leave so we could find somewhere quieter. My partner was also Afghanistan veteran. I feel privileged to have loved and supported him through that experience. It was a big part of his life. I cherish all that. These intimate things are the things your special relationships are made of. We cuddle together naked. I'll admit, it sometimes leads to sex, but most times it's just something cute and intimate we enjoy after a long day. Feeling your partner's skin on your skin is so incredibly wonderful, not to mention, it does leave you vulnerable. We just bought a bidet. We love the bidet. We regularly talk about how awesomely clean our butts feel, usually while one of us is using the bidet. Sometimes I wait until I hear the shower water stops, run and grab him a towel, rustle his hair with it, and run away. Not the most intimate, but that's what came to mind. I have really severe chronic depressions that intensifies during the winter months. Sometimes I have days where I'll spiral into black hole fear and hopelessness, and my lover will just hold me as tight as he can and tell me how much he loves me and how it'll be okay. It helps me more than I can express, and it's also so comforting to know that he sees me in such a vulnerable state and still continues to love me the same. To me, it's more intimate than any sexual act could ever be. I recently started helping my significant other trim his beard. It felt really intimate. I'm African, he's Middle Eastern. It took me a while, but I eventually let him help with taking out my cornrows when I was changing hairstyles and helped me wash my hair. That's pretty intimate to me. I'm not a woman, but I like this question. Showering. It turns sexual like 40% of the time, but it always involves goofing off and talking. Switching sides for hot water is always cumbersome, and it's just two goofballs. Sometimes I play foot or hand and put either on her butt and have her guess. We're pretty much monkeys. We're obsessed with grooming each other. He plucks my eyebrows, loves to wash my hair, and do face masks with me. And I pluck all his weird hairs everywhere, pop pimples, and cut his hair. Cry together, just holding each other as we both sob. We've had a lot of hard knocks since getting married young, but we are still so madly in love. Sometimes we'll be laying together on the couch watching Netflix. He'll fall asleep on me, and I just hold him and let him sleep until it gets too uncomfortable for me. Before I had back surgery a few years ago, the pain was so intense I couldn't get out of bed. My husband had to carry me to the bathroom and wash me and my hair. I felt so fragile. That was probably the most intimate non-sexual thing I've ever experienced. What came to mind first was actually non-physical intimacy. I trust him with all my passwords and bank info, and honestly, at some point or another, we have told each other our social security number and SINs for paperwork or something. He's the same at me. We just a cohesive unit of I trust you, you trust me. Can you check my email for me to see if my mom emailed me back at all times? It's intimate for me to have that trust be mutual. Good thing I married him. When we wake up after sharing a bed together, we take a few moments to just be and enjoy each other. We'll snuggle in closer, nuzzle each other's necks, give each other so many kisses, and sometimes we'll just lay there and tell each other about the dreams we had while staring each other's eyes. When one of us have class or work, we set an alarm that's half an hour earlier than necessary just to start off the day like this. I can tell you what it used to be before our divorce. Whatever we did that day, be it adventuring or swimming or just hanging out, our evenings always ended on our big red couch. I would be on the far right side against the arm because I like getting into the corner. She liked having room to stretch out, so she would get the middle and left side. I'll throw our old fleet over both of us and put something on the TV. Sometimes we'll watch, sometimes we'll chat, sort of watch, but it's always ended us her breathing slowly up and down while falling asleep with her head on my left shoulder. It was a comfortable different thing for her in terms of physical position and closeness, feeling safe. It was a comfortable thing for me too, to know that I have someone who wanted to be close to me and still comfortable. The first time I sat down on that red couch after she moved out in my usual spot was out of reflex. A handful of seconds went by and I realized I could never sit there again and feel good about myself or my life. The coldness of the leather, the emptiness of the space was too much. I got up and rearranged the furniture on the spot. Once I stopped sobbing like an infant. Not sure if all you can tell, but I miss her. Anyways, that's what it was. Sometimes we start giggling at a silly joke and end up just laughing together uncontrollably in bed before we go to bed. It's my favorite. Washing each other. We'll do a full service. Pits, butt crack, etc. Literally whole body. Rarely turns sexual for us. A lot of times we do it after sex when we're done cuddling. Another is probably medical care for each other. I have a bad back, so it'll help move me in bed if it's a rough day or put on my shoes and stuff. It helps me keep my calluses in check on my feet. I try to help him with his acne and other grooming or medical needs I can meet of his. Cooking for him feels intimate to me. I am self-conscious about my cooking because my ex-husband made fun of me. I like gourmet cooking. He likes meatloaf and mashed. I'm trusting him completely when he eats the food that I make, and thankfully, he loves it. One time, a while ago, I had a very bad panic attack, and he carried me into his car, drove me to his place, brought me upstairs, and cuddled and slept with his entire body encompassing me, just repeating, "You're safe here." When I would wake up in a dead panic throughout the night, he would pull me closer and just pet my head to calm me down and say, "I'm here." A close second is this time when we both got into hysterical laughing, just being happy with each other for no freaking reason. We couldn't stop and we were just lying next to each other, smiling so much our eyes were watering and just smiling so much it hurt. Sometimes he lets me hold his wiener and aim when he is peeing. It's so weird feeling the pee come out. I start squeaking a lot. LOL. We have our most important conversations in the shower. It's not even sexual. We clean each other's ears. LOL. Sometimes my wife will ask for a foot rub, which I think is very intimate but can be sexual. Sometimes she asks me to clean her ears and having her head on my lap as I take care of her in the silliest and superficial ways. Makes me feel connected more than any other physical touch. I don't think she knows how much I enjoy it. I had a stroke in March and have lost the majority of use of my left side. It's mostly just there for symmetrical these days. I also have pretty debilitating fibromyalgia. I now need help bathing and he bathes me. I've always been very independent and admitting I needed that help was hard. The first time he bathed me, he was so gentle, thoughtful and loving that it was so beautiful I cried. My husband is just amazing. She holds me when I cry. I grew up in an abusive, neglected family. Naturally, I suffer from crippling depression and anxiety. Currently going to therapy, sometimes we dig deep into the traumas. It feels like I'm being torn from the inside. There's nothing to do but feel the grief. Let it pass through me. I've never had been more raw and vulnerable than in those moments. Being held tenderly while I'm ugly crying, sobbing, and even wailing is love at its best. Lay together naked. Just the feeling of our skins rubbing together, the warmth of his body, his smell, his touch, the texture of his skin, feeling his heart and breathing. It's the most comfortable, special feeling. Our bodies fit together perfectly, and in those moments, nothing else matters and I feel pure bliss. I know it sounds stupid, but we bathe our dog together. Like, we take him to our self-service dog wash and he's big and hates baths, so one of us wrestles him and the other bathes, and it's actually an amazing team building activity. We just had a newborn 6 weeks ago and aren't ready to have sex yet. Every night before I go to bed, after the baby is first asleep, I lay with my head on his lap and we watch Bob Ross because it calms me down. When I start to fall asleep, I go to bed and he stays up to wait for the baby to stir so he can change her and bring her to me for a midnight feeding. In the morning, I'm up before him, clean the dishes, and read for an hour before the baby gets up. After I change and feed her, I bring her to him for morning snuggles and tummy time. I love this little routine and it keeps us feeling close and reminds us that sex and making love are very different things. You can make love without even taking your clothes off. Sappy? Sorry, not sorry. There was one time when I first met my boyfriend, I fell asleep on his chest because I was jet lagged. When I woke up, it was dark. I was still on his arms. He held me the whole time and I've never felt closer to a person. Now every time I go visit him, I'm asleep in his chest. I just love that man so much. I got Lynch syndrome and need to do 2 to 3 screenings each year. I feel very vulnerable at these moments, but he's always with me. He drives me to the hospital, holds my hand throughout the examination, takes care of me afterwards. He's the only one I showed this kind of vulnerability to. I'm torn between two things, the cutest thing and the weirdest thing. The cutest thing is sometimes when we're laying together and just talking, he'll play with the end of my hair. I don't know why, but I feel like this is the closest, most intimate time of the day. The weird one is when we talk about the people that flirt with us. I have a job at the bar and he's an exotic Brazilian boy, so we just get the strangest interactions sometimes. We make fun of each other for it and I feel like we're so close we both don't get offended by it or worried by it. My boyfriend trims my pubic hair with his electric clippers. I go butt up in the air on a Liberator pillow and he gives me his signature fade. This is going to sound stupid, but after I smoke weed, I don't like to kiss. But my partner wants kisses anyway. I'm slowly moving to concentrate so that helps me, but I just don't like it because he doesn't smoke and I feel like it would be gross for him. Nothing I could do grosses him out and there's something so comfortable in that. We could poop with the door open, doesn't mean that we do. We sit at the bottom of the shower together and just talk sometimes. I think that might be my favorite. We were both under 18, so yeah, but my ex and I kinda lived together. Her parents were home only like 10% of the time, so I'll stay the night, then wake up and have hot cocoa in the front porch, and then sit in the kitchen and talk while she made breakfast. Then watch TV together, and then go to the park or clean, or run errands, etc. It was just so nice to exist in each other's world, so naturally, day to day, just with each other. Being so young, this was the first time I experienced anything like this, but it was so lovely. I lived in Korea for 3 years and had a Korean girlfriend the last year I was there. One of the things I miss the most about our relationship is bathing each other. The showers in Korea are just one big room with a drain in the middle, so it was super easy for us to fit in one and bathe each other. It would be nice having someone there to wash your back, and she would also wash my dick and put the foreskin back. It wasn't sexual at all, just very intimate. I've never been much of a touchy-feely person, but my current significant other has changed that. His touch, when not sexual, are like lightning in my body. I hate PDA, but when he's absent-mindedly twisting my hair, pats my back, or places his hair to stir me in directions where we're out, making me feel like $1,000,000. Also, he snuggles so insanely and he's even so touchy. My intimacy beliefs have expanded for sure. Sometimes touches are all it takes.